People think it's weird that like you do, and we've been dating for almost a year now, and I still haven't hit.
Okay, why do we care about other people's opinions?
I mean, I was just presenting the question. Maybe.
You know how I feel.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cafe Belmont. My name is James Belmont. Thank you for joining me. Today, I wanted to talk about the importance of boundaries in relationships and what are some of the consequences if you do not have them. So, before we start, a little bit of context. This video was inspired from an Instagram reel that I saw when I was scrolling. It intrigued me, so I clicked on it. Essentially, what was happening in the clip was an adult actor explaining to her boyfriend why she didn't have any intimacy with him or wasn't intimate with him at all.
People think it's weird that like you do, and we've been dating for almost a year now, and I still haven't hit.
Okay, why do we care about other people's opinions?
I mean, I was just presenting the question. Maybe.
You know how I feel about it. Like, I am a high value woman, and like, I can't just be giving my body. Like, I don't know, like, purity. I told you, like, purity is like a big deal for me. So if I'm not forcing you to stay, like, you can leave whenever you want if you can't respect those boundaries.
Even though she shows her body online in exchange for money, the way she explains it is extremely contradictory. But for some reason, he fell for it. And I think a lot of guys who have strict boundaries wouldn't fall for something like this. So this is why we're going to explain the importance of having boundaries. Before we move on, we need to explain what actually happens to you if you don't set your boundaries in your relationships. Whether they are intimate relationships or friendly relationships, it's important that you set these boundaries so you are comfortable and your friends or your partner is comfortable. What can happen when you're in a relationships where you have no boundaries is that you're feeling as if you're giving more of yourself than you normally would to anybody else. In some instances, it can be one-sided to the point where the person that you were with is receiving all of the benefits of you being there and them giving nothing in return. Another thing is you may feel disrespected when you don't set limits in your relationships. The person that you're talking to is able to explore and find the things that make you uncomfortable and exploit it. This could be your fears. You could be a very anxious person and you don't want other people to talk about it, but they found it out through exploring your lack of boundaries and start to use it to their advantage. Moreover, the video that inspired this video itself, you can see some of the negative things that could happen to you when you are in a situation like this. For example, he was trying to ask a question as to why they were not intimate even though they were in a relationship. You could tell by his body language that he's not confident when he's bringing up these concerns, and this is probably not the first time that this has happened to him. Her response to it was very short and cold and not very considerate of his feelings at all, because she's getting everything she wants from the relationship anyways. So why even put in the effort? She's able to say things that don't really make any sense. For example, she says she values purity even though she shares her body online. And because he doesn't have a counter to that, he just accepts it as reality. Another aspect of lack of boundaries is the type of person you could attract when you're not in a relationship and you're about to be a part of one. This could apply to platonic relationships, but I see it having more of an effect in intimate relationships. I want to talk specifically about a type of person that you will attract. You could attract many different types of personalities, but this one specifically is easy to identify and understand. This personality is of the controlling type. This person tends to have a lack of control in their lives and they try to find it elsewhere. Specific to this scenario, they can't find a guy that they would normally be attracted to, so they find somebody that they can control and try to mold them into the person that they would want them to be. This isn't the case all the time. Perhaps the person that they're currently with that they're not attracted to is just there to boost their morale or give them validation when they're low on supply. Since the woman in the video is an OnlyFans model, I would imagine that the guys that have boundaries and standards that she would be attracted to wouldn't necessarily want to be in a relationship with her, so she is forced to look elsewhere. As human beings, we need some form of compassion and intimacy. Not necessarily sexual, but intimate nonetheless. It has been well documented that being in the adult industry can be a very lonely life, because in general, people outside of the industry don't necessarily want to be associated with that image. This could go for family, friends, organizations that have a certain image and message wouldn't want to be associated with something like that. So she's forced to essentially choose a person who she isn't necessarily attracted to but can control at the same time, because the person who she's with don't have any boundaries, or if they do, the person who is controlling knows what to say and preys on their insecurities to manipulate them into getting the right outcome that they would want every single time. Similar to the girl in the video. Establishing boundaries. It is simple in concept, but when applied, it can be difficult. Essentially, what you're trying to do is construct a barrier that prevents you and other people from going through it. This could be as simple as telling your friend that you don't want to go on the roller coaster ride because you are afraid of heights, all the way to relationships where you're trying to tell your partner what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with. Formulating the words is the easy part. The hard part is asserting your limits, telling the person what you're not comfortable with. That's the hard part. A large part of the difficulty lies with the fact that you may lose the person, but I urge you to think of this. I would imagine if your partner loved you, they will be willing to accommodate your needs as well. This includes your boundaries outside of standard behaviors in a relationship. If a person you intend to spend a large amount of time with is not willing to consider these limitations that you have on certain things, then that is something that you need to examine and see if this is a person you would want to be with for the rest of your life. More specific to the controlling personality, by asserting your boundaries, you are essentially taking back the control that you gave to them willingly by not having the barriers there in the first place. If they refuse to relinquish the control, I believe that you will be better off in the long run if they were not in your life anymore. But at the end of the day, it is your call and your decision to make. By practicing setting these boundaries, you will become more confident over a short or long period of time, depending on how many situations you are in to practice setting these barriers. Remember, practice builds confidence, not perfection. In conclusion, a person who is able to assert themselves and be comfortable with losing a person over them establishing their boundaries is a very strong human being. If you assert your limits and the person who is violating those boundaries is not willing to make the accommodation to make you feel more comfortable, them leaving your space is not a loss, it is a gain. This has been Cafe Belmont. My name is James Belmont. Thank you for joining me. Before I go, tell somebody in your life that you love them, and I will see you soon. Take care.